Hi, everybody. It's Stefan Molyneux from Freedomain Radio. It is May the 29th, 2011. This introductory podcast goes out to Adam Kokesh, who was recently arrested for dancing, and might I add, quite well for a Marine, an ex-Marine, at the Jefferson Memorial. The ironies are too obvious to mention, and so I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I think of this incident. He was dancing. There were a few other people dancing. There was one couple who was slow dancing and doing all kinds of nice things. And what happened? Well, they were body slammed, thrown to the ground. We got knees on the back. And in one truly bizarre incident, the policeman seems to be quite concerned with a pair of sunglasses that he doesn't want to have broken. Spirits of the citizens, on the other hand, are prime for mashing as much as people see fit. Now, there has been some commentary going back and forth, and of course there are people who are coming out that this is police brutality, and there are people who are coming out that this is a profanation. It is profaning the sacred monument to Jefferson. Now, philosophy, true philosophy, is the sworn enemy of the sacred. Let me tell you what people mean when they say the word sacred. What people mean when they say the word sacred is, I have an irrational attachment to bullshit, and I will punch you in the face if you question it. That is the brutality that lies under the mental superstructure called the sacred. The only thing that is sacred is human life and liberty and peace. The initiation of force is not sacred. Rock is not sacred, whether it is in the shape of Jefferson or a turd. It doesn't matter. It is simply rocks. It is atoms and space. It is not sacred. Human thought, human freedom, human reason, human passion, that is sacred. But people invent the word sacred. Sacred is the word that loosens the safety on the revolver. Safety is the sound of the fist coming back to punch anybody in the face who dares bring reason and evidence to the sickness called the sacred. And what happens when you profane the sacred, when you bring reason to the sacred, is you get attacked. Sacred is a series of landmines that is set up around sentimental bullshit so that people can attack you. And it is all over the place in society. It's the flags, it's the gods, it's the family, it's whatever is invented that you must venerate and must worship despite reason and evidence. Yeah, there are families out there that are absolutely worth passionately devoting yourself to and loving and living for. I wouldn't say so much with countries, and certainly not with gods. But the act of dancing to headphone music, swaying a little bit, this is where we have come to as a society, that these knuckle-dragging thugs will bring down a good man for the sake of a little swaying in front of a statue. But this is how bizarre and insane society has become. Now, it's not the worst society that's ever been, and there's lots that I admire about the American system and the Canadian system and a lot of the Western system, and it's better living here than Marrakesh, but it's not so much important where we are as it is important where we are going. And I feel some outrage. I don't feel a lot of shock. You know, dancing and authority have never particularly gone hand in hand. You don't see a lot of free-form jazz body movement fluidity exercises in police training. You see it in theater school where you're actually supposed to be creative, and I've done this kind of fruity stuff, and it's actually a heck of a lot of fun. I'd really recommend movement and body classes, gymnastic classes, sword fighting classes, all of the things that I've partaken in. The freedom of the body, the flexibility of the body, the spontaneous expression of joy and passion and in the momentness that dancing represents is something that authority cannot abide. Cannot abide. And some people have said that the police should be sued, that the police should be punished. I'm not of that mind. It's just using another state apparatus. My argument would be that everybody who was involved in the arrest of these dancing people should be forced to take free-form, gayer than hell body expression classes where they get to be trees jogging and cats about to fall out of a tree. And hopefully that will get them a little bit more in touch with their physicality. It might help a few of them lose a few pounds, which certainly seem to be in the cards in terms of health. But I think, yeah, let's punish them with some really, really, really flaky-ass dance classes. I think that would be the best thing to do and the best thing for them, because then they might realize that there's a little bit more to life than showing up sweaty and dough-faced and pudgy and bringing down people. And Adam, of course, is an ex-soldier and is the host of Adam versus the Man, which you can catch on RT.com. It was a great show. I strongly recommend that you watch it. Even when I'm not on it, I hear. Actually, I know. It's very, very good. And all kudos to him for doing what he's doing. But you see, here's an example of a man who fought for the freedom of America and comes home and was arrested. It sort of reminds me of the fellow who fought in Iraq, survived several terms in Iraq or Afghanistan, came home and was killed by a SWAT team in a mistaken drug raid. Well, this is the reality of the world that we live in. So if you are outraged by this, I would suggest don't be, because this is the inevitable extension of state power, and fighting the free and spontaneous expression of creative physicality is natural to the powers that be. It's one of the reasons why, the long hair and hippiness of people in Haight-Ashbury in the 1960s was so frowned upon, horrified, and attacked by people who had short haircuts, square souls, and regimented empty heads. So it's natural, it's tragic, but the best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is to swell the ratings for Adam's show. That is the way to turn evil into good, to turn temptation, to turn vice, to turn oppression into liberty. Get behind Adam versus the Man, ADAMVSTHEMAN.com. Go and watch his show. Go and subscribe to his newsletter. Go and onto his website site and join the I-Course. Write to Russian television and tell him how much you admire what he is doing. Use this harassment, this initiation of force for the simple act of fairly getting down Marine Boogie, and go to his show and support his show and encourage his show and praise his show and spread his show. That's how you fight this kind of oppression. That's how you turn this shattering of the light into a sunrise of possibility. That is my strong urging. And for the people who've written on my thread, so I posted all this on Facebook, and I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny, but the people who posted and said that the Jefferson Monument is sacred. My God. Well, I mean, all you're doing is talking about your dad. I mean, it's a piece of rock. It's a statue. It's nothing. It's nothing. The ideals themselves, perhaps, of liberty and freedom from tyranny are sacred. The rock is not. The flag is not. The ideals are, because the ideals are a product of human thought rather than a blind aggregation of nature chiseled by people usually paid by the state. So the ideals of freedom are sacred. The rock itself is not sacred. The ideals of a small or no government is sacred. The flag is a piece of cloth and not sacred. And it's a little bit hard, however much I might admire certain aspects of Thomas Jefferson's thinking, and he was a fairly good architect. It's a little hard to believe that a man who pretty much raped his slaves continually is someone that we should hold in incredibly high veneration as a moral paragon and virtue of the species. I'm just saying, this seems to be pretty well established by DNA testing that he was a slave banger. And that's kind of a shadow on, however sunlit you may think of the rest of his soul, it's a little bit of a shadow on the soul. If we're a little horrified by what Arnold the Sperminator has done with his housekeepers, at least she was somewhat there voluntarily. This is not the case with the Jefferson slaves. So it's a little hard, I think, to say that the only problem in the Jefferson Monument is some free-form, slightly swaying booginess. There are other crimes hanging over the statue that would perhaps be a little bit more important to keep in perspective. So I'm absolutely, completely, and totally happy to hear what you all have to think about this or any other topic. But Adam, hopefully we can talk this week. I have huge sympathies. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. I think that you've got some great moves, which I will be copying and doubtless calling my own, which nobody will believe. But, stay strong, stay in touch, and you got, it's you got some balls, man. You got some stones, and I admire that. And your restraint and professionalism in this encounter with these thugs was enormously impressive. And I look forward to hearing the tales from the crypts of the weekend. So stay strong, my friend, and I will talk to you soon.